But like when you see something new. I watch
Uno teco?
Uno teco.
Let's go!
Okay, so hello, my name is Kenty, and first piece that I'll be talking about is classical music. So, the first piece is by the Russian composer Piotr Tchaikovsky. Now, the piece that I'm going to be talking to you about is his Piano Concerto No. 1. And I was 6 years old when I first heard this piece, and it was back in San Antonio, Texas. Now, my parents, being classical musicians and piano teachers and players themselves, they wanted me to get used to classical music and to love it with all my heart. Now, I remember the first 10 minutes of it, I was really bored, and the thing that I wanted most was actually ice cream. So my mom was beside me and she said, if you want ice cream, just sit back, relax, and just listen to this piece and don't fall asleep. So what happened was I did not fall asleep and I got the thing that I wanted, and that was ice cream. But that day was the beginning of my love for classical music. Now I'm 17 years old, and you know, my dad keeps on driving me there and back, and we turn on the radio and we listen to classical music, and every time I listen to classical music I keep on remembering that day when I was 6 years old when I wanted ice cream, and I remember that piece, Piano Concerto No. 1, and every time I listen to it on YouTube or on radio, I feel pride for my country because it's Tchaikovsky, you know, Russia, and yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. Now, the second piece that I'll be talking to you about is also classical music, but it's opera. And it is by my favorite opera composer of all time, Giuseppe Verdi, and my favorite opera, Il Trovatore. And I was 12 years old and I was in New York City, and we were going to the Metropolitan Opera, which is considered one of the best opera theaters in the whole world, and I agree with that. And at that time, when I was 12 years old, I was already comfortable with classical music. I was listening to it a lot, but this opera, Il Trovatore, really took my love for classical music to a whole new level. And this aria, this stretto, which is like a 2-minute aria, is sung by Manrico. It is a really, really great vocal piece. And every time I listen to that piece, I always sing along with it. And even though I'm a baritone, obviously I cannot sing with it, but it is still such a great piece. You know, I get real ecstatic about it because of its fast tempo and all that stuff. And like, now that I listen to classical music, every time I listen to opera, I always go back to that aria, you know, because it's really great. It's a really great piece.
Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase.
Hakuna Matata. Ain't no passing.
Okay, hi, I'm Jamie. Of course you know me because you teach me. But the first piece I'm going to be talking about is Hakuna Matata from The Lion King. One of my all-time favorite movies. Though it's not the best movie ever, it's got a really nostalgic place in my heart. The first time I heard Hakuna Matata, I was, I think, maybe 5 years old, and I got back from school for the last day of school in June, and I just sat down and I watched Lion King over and over and over through the whole summer. I watched like every day, probably around like 3 o'clock every day, watching The Lion King, and and that song always made me laugh, and it was so just marvelous. Even at the Christmas show earlier this year, I got to perform Hakuna Hanukkah, which was just the greatest moment of my life, being up on stage, singing basically my favorite song from any movie ever, Hakuna Matata. And it was such a moving experience for me to get to be Pumbaa. I was Pumbaa. And I got to sing Hakuna Matata. What's better than that? There's nothing better than that. For my second song, I chose to do Seasons of Love from Rent because that was like the first major musical number that we did in vocals class when I first came to Wex, and it was like kind of like a breakthrough, and I learned that I actually do enjoy singing and I do like musicals a lot, and that song really just, it united the whole class, and I felt like I was part of a team, you know, and yeah, pretty much it.
I'm Sadat, and the two songs I've picked are they both mean a lot to me, but they're both very different. Because the first song I picked is Heartless by Kanye West. I know it's a weird pick, but I picked it because Kanye is an artist I look up to, and that was one of the first songs that got me into listening to Kanye West and get into the Yeezy population and all that stuff. Because now I look up to Kanye, and it's not just about his music, it's about the person he is and what he's achieved today. That's the type of person I'd want to be. Not only with his success in music with 20 Grammys, his clothing line and his shoes and everything, like, they're blowing up, and that's one reason I look up to Kanye, and Heartless is one of the main reasons, and so it was a good song. Yeah. How could you be so heartless? And the second song I picked is a song that means a lot to me. It's
Neighborhood.
Got no weekend. Weather.
What a Weather by The Neighborhood. It's a really good song. It's a song that came out around my transition from going SATEC to Wexford, and it's a song I listen to every day on the bus. So that song reminds me of coming to the school that I go to now and being in grade 12 and the 2 years that I've spent. And it's a song that you can play on repeat and still listen to, and it'll just never get old. And it's a song that I love to sing, and these guys do too. So
Yeah, it's sick. It's a good one. Man.